I'm joined by Maini Homer. So Maini, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tony. It's such a pleasure.
You're more than welcome. Maini is known as the Queen of Content Creation, a #1 international best-selling author, and has created 13 successful businesses over the last 23 years. So Maini, please share with us some insights into your journey and discoveries along the way, as well as tips that listeners can implement straight away to make great things happen for themselves and their businesses.
All right. Well, I come from an interesting background. I'm not one of these people that had silver spoons in my mouth or anything like that. In fact, I came from a very poor background where, unfortunately, there was a lot of abuse in my life. It was like, you know, all kinds of abuse. There was verbal, there was mental, there was definitely physical as well. And so I grew up in a family with 3 girls, and Dad worked nights, and Mum was pretty much doing everything by herself, and she just couldn't cope with it. She couldn't deal with that because she had her own demons going on, you know. So we all grew up with a lack of skills in any, like, you know, confidence, certainty, anything like that. And so there's skills that I've had to teach myself along the way, like without any idea and any clue, you know, how to do it. I've always had that entrepreneurial streak in me though. And I guess it's just, I think when it's inbred into you like that, whether it's been passed down generation from generation, who knows? I think when it's in you like that, that no matter what skills, and I say skills, you need to learn along the way, you do that and you just keep going.
I think when you have a difficult start in life, then I think it's sometimes out of necessity, even if it isn't born in you, that you discover these things about yourself, and whether subconsciously or not, you make things happen.
I think you do. It's interesting you say that, because obviously one of my goals in life has been to completely smash the mold into dust for my children. And what's interesting, I find, is that with the mindset I've gained over the years, my son, who is extremely intelligent, he's first year of high school this year, and he's challenged fitting in. He's really challenged fitting in, but not for the same reasons that I was. He's challenged because he's confident. He's challenged because he's above the line. He's above the line from what the average child is. And it wasn't until just today that I explained to him that the reason why they pick on him and they call him a nerd and they tell him that he's got no social skills is because they're actually jealous of the fact that he is so strong. And this is his resilience building so that he can end up being the business owner that he's going to need.
It's an important life skill, really. I think that children, as we know, can be extremely cruel. But if you can tough that out and get through it, then it will make you a much stronger person as you get older.
I absolutely totally agree. And that's actually what I've sort of like said to my boy. It's like, look at it, like just reframe it, basically. Look at it. And geez, I wish my mother had been able to help me with these things, you know? Look at it as a lesson. Look at it as the learnings you need to get to be able to create a successful life for yourself. Feel gratitude that they're giving you this angst and giving you these challenges so that you can learn to beat them now.
Yeah, maybe it's a different approach we have to these obstacles and see them in a positive way. You know, challenges can be positive, and obviously the self-achievement, if you're able to overcome those challenges, is fantastic. You know, you feel so much better about yourself. Move on to the next one. Bring it on.
Exactly right. And like, don't get me wrong, I think we're all still challenged, you know, just about every day in our businesses and in our lives. It was a challenge to me to have my son come home to me and say, hey, Mum, this is not working out. They don't like me. It's like, oh, I haven't quite, wanted to do what I did with the mold, but it just took me some time just to process that. And I was able to give him the tools that I've gained now. So lucky him, he's going to have a lot more than what I got when I grew up. So
sounds like another perfect example of your should we say, tough times or early days has helped your own children. So it's I think that's one of the beauties that we as, should we say, strivers often see, is that we don't necessarily see it maybe in ourselves, but we can definitely pass on so much down to our own children and the people around us, really. So
absolutely, yes.
so tell me, so you've obviously had a sort of a difficult start in life, as you've mentioned. So what led you to where you are now? So talk me through the sort of the various stages that you went through.
Okay, so there were some interesting stages that I can now recognise are like, you know, the defining moments in my life. So when I hit 24, I was, you know, I was in a nice secure government job. I was getting paid every fortnight. I could have stayed in that position until I was 65, and I could have retired with the gold watch. Do you know what I mean? And it was good. I was married. It wasn't a happy marriage, but at the time I didn't know any better. So, and all of a sudden my father died suddenly. He just basically had a heart attack and he was gone. The events that followed that were some of the most interesting events of my life. My family, through their own grief, took it out on me, losing dad and losing everything. And they actually booted me out of the family. I was actually kicked out of the family. So within the space of 12 months, I lost my father suddenly. My family kicked me out. The ex-husband took off. Just about every friend I had in the world seemed to disappear. And I was left with one choice and one choice only, and that was to run as fast and as far away as I could. So I decided then to move to New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where I was actually born. So I moved to New Zealand because then I could start my life again and I could transform myself into this new person where nobody knew me, kind of thing, you know. The only trouble with that is I actually took myself with me.
You can't escape yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, it was a good plan. What it did, though, and the reason why I've shared this with you, what it did is it actually forced me to find a new way. It forced me to go and, like, you know, create a new pathway for my life. And so maybe even unconsciously, I actually did that. And even though the first year in New Zealand, in a strange country where I knew nobody, where I was grieving like you wouldn't believe, because not only had I lost my dad, I'd lost everything I knew to be real. Everything was gone. So you can imagine, like, you know, I was a little messy.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I was there a year when I met the man I'm still married to today, and we've been together 21 years. And he was the first person that really actually listened and just held me when I was crying and when I was grieving. You know, he was the first person that really seemed to give a damn. And that's what put me on this path where I was then able to go and create business after business and build my strength and build my skill sets to improve on every single one as I went through.
So talk us through some of your early businesses in terms of what you did, and I mean, really, how you did this. I mean, why did you choose those various businesses for one? And, you know, what were the things that you learned about those yourself, and obviously running the business by doing that?
Okay, well, my very first business was actually shortly after my father died, when everything was just falling apart around me. I actually purchased a franchise. I bought a commercial cleaning franchise with my first husband at the time, and it was a guaranteed income base, so it had a little bit of security on it. It was like basically you earned $2,000 a month for 24 months. That was the plan, and this is 1997, so that's quite good. That's quite good money back then. So and all you had to do was basically they gave you the contracts to that value, you did the work, and you got paid basically. And so I was doing that as well as working my government job. So I was actually getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning and going and doing cleaning, and then going and working a full day in my job, like falling over at 6 o'clock at night, sleeping while I could, and then doing the whole process again, you know. And so what I would actually do with that one is I'd actually take a day off about once a fortnight out of my day job to go prospecting. And I managed to build that up from $2,000 a month to $8,000 a month income within about 3 or 4 months.
Brilliant.
So we were rocking it. We were absolutely rocking it. I wanted to step into that role permanently.
Yeah.
I did not like cleaning men's urinals. Funny that. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, long story short, my husband didn't have the vision that I had.
Yeah.
And when everything fell apart and he walked out, he actually took the one thing that I needed to be able to continue, and that was the car.
Okay.
So what I found is I suddenly had all of these contracts for all of these companies that I'd worked hard to get. I had no vehicle. I was a 24-year-old single woman living in Brisbane City who had to travel in the middle of the night to cleaning contracts in the middle of the city.
Impossible.
Yeah, and so one of the terms of that business was that if you couldn't do your contracts within 48 hours, even the ones you went and got yourself, you lost the lot. So I lost that business within 48 hours of saying, I can't do this.
Okay.
Right?
That was rather extreme in terms of the term.
That was the rules.
Yeah,
and that's the agreement that I signed. I can remember the knock on the door, and I knew exactly who it was. And I just grabbed the keys and just said, here you go. You know, so lots of lessons from that business, obviously. You know, the big ones to be careful. I'm going to say it, who you get into bed with.
Yeah, I think
Exactly right,
I've certainly had that on more than one occasion.
That's yeah, and that would be the biggest lesson there, is be careful who you get into bed with, and just be careful what you agree to, because at the end of the day, that was all my hard work that I put into that, building that up, and just to have that taken from you like that. It was part of the contract, so I had no choice. But yeah,
and somebody else has had the benefit of that.
well, they did. That's right. I lost everything, and so from there is when I sort of like developed a plan to move to New Zealand. I went back to a job for a while.
Yeah.
Just working as a temp for a while until I could build some funds up so I could go. And then the next, like, I just had a multitude of businesses through. The next one was after I met my husband now. We'd been together like 3 months, and we were already living together. And so we started the company, and it was a mobile mechanics business because he was a trained mechanic.
Okay.
And so I would sit on the phone and take the calls, and he would fix the cars.
Right.
Right. So we had that for like 5 years. We started off just one van and my husband, and we extended that business to 6 or 7 staff. And that's when it got out of control. We were making more profit with that one when we were just a one-man band, if that makes sense, and we were.
I think that's a good lesson, because I've seen this now many times where people feel they need to scale or to grow, and what happens is that it doesn't improve the profitability. If anything, it makes it worse. So you don't always need to grow to a multi-billion-pound empire to have that or the profitability you need to earn a very good living from a business. So.
That's right. And I mean, I think that's what comes down to. It's like, I know there's a big question coming up and I don't want to preempt it, but it's like what, it all means to you. Now, our biggest month in that business, and we're talking back 2000 here. So our biggest month, we did a $60,000 month, 1 month in a mechanic shop. Okay. Yeah. And I said to my staff, I said, if you guys get us to 60,000 this month, I'll take you and your wives out for a fancy dinner. We'll go out for dinner. The whole staff will go out. Yeah. So we made the goal. We went out for the dinner. The dinner cost me $1,000 for the night. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, all expenses paid, no question, just paid the bill. Yeah. It cost us $61,000 that month to run the business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was funny because then we just said, you know what? Cut, and cut it down simply, so that was our lesson from that one. So now I've got many stories. How many do you want?
Well, you pick what you think are the probably the most notable ones, so where you probably had the biggest lessons from or your biggest successes from.
All right. So I'm going to share another one with you. This was a business I started from scratch, no money down. I thought a couple of $100, I think was all that I had for it. And that's because that's how I used to start businesses. I didn't want to start anything that would take like a lot of capital or anything like that. I was, I was always about the creation. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I was pregnant at the time with my son. Okay. And I decided I didn't want to pay for baby products. So I started importing from China like modern cloth nappies. I think you call them nappies there, not diapers. Is that right? Okay, so they're the ones with the Velcro. I don't know if you've seen them. They're like the old cloth nappies, but they have Velcro on them, or they have buttons. So they're still cloth.
Velcro or sticky sort of tape, I think they are now.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one for a while, or changed one for a while, but I think they are.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so it just like, it allows you to not use disposables, have cloth nappies, but just, it's easy, because like, who wants to be pinning their kid and all the rest? Seriously, you know, it's like, And so I started importing them. I branded it myself, called it My Baby after my son.
Yeah.
And we're living in New Zealand at this stage still. I was there for actually 16 years after I moved there. So, and it took off. There was only one other guy on the platform selling them, and he did plain, boring old white, unbranded. So I branded it. I brought in colors. I brought in, designs. I brought in designer baby nappies, and the business just flourished to the point where I had my daughter as well. She came along. And so I had toddlers running around my feet basically whilst I ran this business, and it was taking me an hour a day. That's all it took. And I was getting the equivalent of 2 full-time wages in profit off it every week without fail.
Wow. Sounds like a good ratio there in terms of time to obviously what you get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was thriving, and I had that for 4 years. And then, would you believe it, because of a lack of self-belief and lack of self-worth in myself, I had a lady approach me at my child's daycare, and she was basically falling over herself to talk to me. And she was saying, oh my goodness, oh, your nappies are just the amazing nappies I've ever had. I put all of my 5 kids through. You are amazing. You're incredible. Oh my gosh. I've told all my friends have bought them, and their friends have bought them. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's just so amazing. And she freaked me out that much because I was so afraid that they would find out that maybe I fluked it, or it was just, something I did. That I flew home. It was a half an hour drive home. And I walked into the house, and my husband was home, and I said, that's it, I'm done, I've had enough, I'm tired of hormonal women, I'm selling the business. And I put it up for sale at a price probably a third of its value, and it sold within 24 hours.
Right. Okay.
How's that for self-sabotage?
Yeah, that's a pretty good example. That sounds as if you were on to a real winner there.
Yeah, it was like, and it was just my unconscious mind just pushing forward the fact that I didn't believe in myself. I didn't know my worth. I didn't have my confidence. And I figured I just fluked it. And so, goodness gracious, what if somebody found out that I'd done that? What if somebody found out that I was just a fraud?
Yeah.
So it was elimination. I had to eliminate it.
So
and that's not the thing I've done that.
How did you go about doing that then?
Well, I sold it.
Yeah.
And the people. Yeah, I did. I went. Well, I still had another business that we'd had for 14 years, so we still had something else to go on with. But that one, like, gosh, it doesn't get any easier than that, does it? Really?
That's just probably as good as you get, yeah.
And even today, I kick myself over that because I think, what were you doing? What were you thinking? So the big lesson there, obviously, was like, just get this right, sort this out. Your head.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think all of us have self-doubts, whether it's esteem, confidence, whatever label you want to put on it, but we all have them, and sometimes they never leave us. I think it's a question of controlling them and managing those and believing ourselves, which again is easier said than done when probably most of our adult lives in particular, we are told that things can't be achieved, or you can't do this, you can't do that. And you can, but you need self-belief, and you need people around you to believe in you and encourage you to do these things. And anything is possible at the end of the day. So,
absolutely. Well, one of the things I've learned over the last few years, Tony, is that yes, we can do anything that we want to. And for me, getting my mindset sorted, I used a skill called Neuro-Linguistic Programming to do that.
Yeah, familiar with that.
It's completely changed my life. So I no longer believe that I can't. I no longer have any self-doubt. I obviously have no confidence issues. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And it's because of that I am able to go out there and create something that's now going to be the multi-million-dollar business. I can see it. I can feel it. And I know it's it's only a short journey away, because clearly I know what I'm doing now. So whilst you say that people may feel like they can't fix this stuff, it is actually, to me, just a skill set. It's no different to learning how to cook or learning how to take great photos. If you want to learn how to get your self-confidence and your self-worth, then there's people out there who can train you and help you do that. It's kind of like a brainwash in a way, but it's a good one, do you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because you know, I've looked into this a lot more over the recent years. I had master practitioner, NLP practitioner on a few weeks ago, and there's some great insights from there. But exactly as you've said, is that we can train our minds, if you like, to overcome all these deep inner doubts, if you like, or barriers that we've acquired over the years, and we can smash them with the right tools and techniques. And as you said, then it opens up so many doors, and you can be, or you can fulfill your potential, should we say, by taking the right steps.
Yeah, you absolutely can. So it's not an impossibility. It is actually not an impossibility. I mean, for years, I didn't know you could. Do you know? I mean, I'm an avid follower of Tony Robbins. I think the guy is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but I've actually got a photo of him with me.
Okay.
That was a goal I set for a hug and a photo, and I made it happen.
Good.
And I actually use that. Anytime I feel like I can't do something, I walk out and I think, girl, you did that. If you can do that, you can do anything, especially living in Australia. It's not an easy thing to get a photo with Tony Robbins. It's not an easy.
No, you're right. No, he's. I mean, I know he's obviously he's an avid traveller for all parts of the world, but it's not that often. So you have to grab the opportunities when you can. Yeah.
Well, that's right. You know, and that whole weekend, it was interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine about it just the other day. It was one thing after another. The universe just kept throwing in my path, you know, to help me to reach that goal. You know, even little things, from the phone call I got from my boy, who was only 5 years old then, and he didn't say, "Hey, Mum, how you going?" The first thing he said to me, "Have you got your photo with Tony Robbins yet, Mum?" It's like, and so it was, then I couldn't not do it, you know?
Yeah. So what happened next then? So what's the next part of your journey?
Next part of my journey, I just continued with a few more business ideas.
Yeah.
I did my NLP.
Yeah.
From my NLP.
Yeah.
Now we can edit this, can't we?
Of course we can. Yep. Yes, I will.
Sorry. I could feel it coming.
She was me.
Okay.
She was me.
Yeah, I could feel it coming. I had a flu a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
And it just hangs on. One of those ones that just hang on, you know? So, yeah. All right. So my journey from there pretty much was, I went through my NLP training.
Yeah.
I decided to do coaching and realized that coaching wasn't for me. I still did amazing at it, because no matter what I put my mind to, I tend to make a success of.
Yeah.
And I transformed the lives of over 160 women personally with breakthroughs, which you would have learned in your training.
Yeah.
So one-on-one breakthroughs. However, it burnt me out. I was completely to the point where if I had to pick up the phone and listen to one more person's problems.
Yeah.
So I actually took a break for 6 months, and then last year at the beginning of the pandemic, I was doing just a little bit of business coaching, just bringing in a little bit of income.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic hit, I decided to write a book.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I actually sat down over a weekend in less than 24 hours, and it just flowed out of me, this entire book that is now the #1 international bestseller.
What's the title?
Lockdown Took My Income.
Right. Okay. I have seen, actually. I did read a few of the paragraphs. So it's a fascinating book. I think it's one that is perfect for the lockdown periods and beyond. So I would recommend anybody pick that up and give that a good read, because there's lots of very useful insights and tips in there.
Absolutely. One of the things I learned along the way, because a lot of what I've done is unconscious, which is quite normal for many people.
Yeah.
And it was funny, as I was writing the book, Tony, I'd stop and I'd go, yeah, I do that. Like, I'd give a step, I'd give a tip in the book, and it's like, yeah, I actually do that, you know, and I wasn't even aware I was, but it was just, you know, it was flowing. So once I did the book, it just had a friend of mine who was a publisher.
Yep.
And I had some skills that she wanted to know, and obviously I needed my book published, so we did a trade share.
Okay.
And this is a really powerful thing for people to learn, that you can actually just share trades, you can just swap.
Yeah.
So I knew how to get articles published.
Yeah.
She wanted to know how to do that. So, and I needed my book published. So we swapped our skills, and I remember the day we did the big launch party for the book, and my children were in lockdown, so they were my sound and lighting crew that day.
Yeah.
And we went out for lunch afterwards, because we were allowed to sneak out, just, you know, for the local shops.
Yeah.
And I said to them at the time, I said, look, I says, do not worry if we don't make it, you know, if it doesn't make it, you know, in the top 100. Don't worry. It's just, at least we're going to have that starting point.
Yeah.
We can then work from there. And I can remember that night just getting a number 2 sent to me on a text message, number 2. And I'm like, going, what? And then she goes, no, wait, number 1. And she said, in 3 countries and 3 categories. It's like, what? It's something that I did, you know? Yeah. So from the book, sorry, we're getting there. From the book, if you don't push these things consistently, they don't seem to like really take off. You've got to constantly be going book, you know, around.
Yeah.
From there, I created a video series from scratch, 14 days, to show people that I knew what I was talking about with my book. And I followed the steps in my book, and I created a blog and article writing business on Fiverr.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, and the rest is history. Because all of a sudden I started getting orders for blogs and articles, and it went crazy. And all of a sudden I had a thriving business that now has 16 staff.
Oh, wonderful. Is there any topics or subjects that you specialize in terms of the blogs and the articles?
We write for many genres. We're pretty open to that. We've recently been looking at our target market very closely, seeing if we needed to niche down further than we have, but we've discovered that we like the broad range. So we tend to work with business owners that have less than 50 staff. Yeah. And doesn't matter. I mean, providing they're not, you know, in like, you know, the big, deep technical articles, which we don't love to write, then there's not much we can't write. I mean, I've got a book publisher, I've got a brain injury client, I've got life coaches, I've got travel agents, I've got a massage chair dude, believe it or not. Any
financial advisors?
Not yet. Do I have one in you?
You might do, you may do. So we may have a conversation later.
Let's do that. Absolutely. You could be my very first one. There you go.
Could be, yeah, it could be.
Yes. So there's not a lot that we won't do. I'm not a big fan of the big technical stuff, as I said, but apart from that, it's like, because, you know, that's hard going. It's got to flow. It's got to be enjoyable. Do you know what I mean? It's really got to be enjoyable. So.
Yeah, and it's not just enjoyable, but it's got to be. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a process you have to go through, and if you don't understand or haven't got the technical expertise, then it's difficult, and somebody's going to pick that up. So it's better to have maybe a broader subject, should we say, that is easier to write and more enjoyable to write, and easier for the consumer to read and enjoy as well.
Right, and I mean, like, I just love to help people.
Yeah.
So I don't want to really cut myself down to the point where I'm just one person suggests I just do physiotherapists. It's like, really?
Okay. So this is now your main. Is this your main business now, or have you got other businesses on the go as well?
No, this is my dream. I think this is my dream business. I think I finally found my true jam. Do you know what I mean? It lights me up every day. I wake up every morning and the first thing I think is like, wow, what's going to happen today? Like, you know, who's going to approach me? I mean, I've got 2 or 3 hot leads jumping into my inbox every day currently. So it's like, wow, what industry am I going to write about today? You know, like who's going to want my services today? And it's really exciting. It's building fast. Obviously, I've got 16 staff already.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the sky's the limit.
Yeah. It sounds like you've gone from 0 to where you are in a very short space of time. You've clearly hit on a niche that works, and there's a demand for them. I have been writing my own blogs, so I know how time consuming it is for me to do it, and it's something I've always wanted to try and outsource where I can, and I do. But if you can get it right, it can make a huge difference in terms of your business and promote your business, because people love consuming content, don't they?
They do. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you said the time it takes you, for example, compared to someone who's an expert at it.
Yeah.
You know, and my writers are experts. I mean, like I can bang out 1,000 words in an hour.
Right, okay.
The subject, I get the subject and it just flows. It's just because it's my superpower, it's my passion, it's what I'm good at. Which is actually the first step in my book, actually, finding a superpower.
Every day is exciting, every day is different, and variety makes all the difference when you're in business, and it's not repetitive. And when you enjoy something, it doesn't work. The question I was going to ask you, which just sprung to mind, is that does it take you more than an hour a day compared to your nappy business?
It has. But truthfully, I'm probably only one step away from financial freedom. So I have been seen doing this with my thumbs, you know, like twiddling my thumbs a fair bit in the last couple of weeks. It's like, now what? So yes, it has, obviously. And I still make sure it does so that I'm kept busy and I'm kept entertained. So I just focus on other things now. Like I'm now doing the podcast. I'm doing like interviews. I'm doing all kinds of different things. Which, you know, all helps the bigger picture.
Well, as you know, promotion is, you know, it definitely is what makes your business grow. You can be the best expert in any field, but if nobody knows about you, then you're not going to have any clients or customers. So
that's right. Can I use that quote? Can I take that quote?
Of course you can. We're coming towards the end of the show now. So if somebody wanted to work with you, and obviously they wanted to have their blogs or their articles written, then how do they get in touch with you, Maini?
Okay, so the Queen of Content hangs out on LinkedIn all day. It's like my new home. I've gone from Facebook. I moved from Facebook. I've gone to LinkedIn, and as long as my VA allows me to play on LinkedIn, that's where you'll find me. So please come and connect with me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, you can visit our website at copywritersinternational.com. They're the two best places to find me.
All right. I'll put the links up on the show notes so people can find you there as well. I always ask one question of my guests, and I'm going to ask you the same. And that question is, what does wealth mean to you?
Okay, well, I have actually really put a lot of thought into this for you. All right. And I wanted to share with you a little anecdote from one of my children.
Okay.
I can remember several years ago, we were just on our way home from, I think, a dinner out on a random night, and young Thomas, who was about 7 at the time, he says, "Do you know what, Mum?" He says, "We're rich." And I said, "Are we?" He says, "Yes." He says, "Rich in friends," he says, "rich in family, and rich in love," he says. And that came from a 7-year-old boy, and it made me stop and think that true wealth is happiness. True wealth is love. True wealth is a strong mindset, and true wealth is abundance. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, he hit the nail on the head. It's not about how much money's in the bank or how many properties you own. True wealth is love and happiness.
You have a very wise son there. I see great things for your son.
Yes.
Maini, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm sure my audience is going to love listening to, obviously, our conversation today. And I'd like to wish you all the very best in everything that you do in life. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Same to you.